Sri Lanka has long struggled with the legacy of its brutal civil war, a conflict that officially ended in 2009 but continues to haunt the nation through allegations of war crimes, disappearances, and widespread impunity. In a rare development, a high-ranking military official once seen as untouchable has been brought under legal scrutiny. Admiral Vasantha Karanagoda, the country's former Navy commander, has been arrested over his alleged involvement in the abduction and disappearance of 11 young men during the final years of the Civil War. This arrest marks one of the most high-profile cases to emerge in Sri Lanka's long and difficult path toward post-war justice. Admiral Karanagoda was once hailed as a national hero. As the head of the Sri Lankan Navy during the peak of the Civil War, he played a prominent role in the defeat of the Liberation Tigers of Tamil Eelam, a separatist group engaged in a 26-year armed struggle for an independent Tamil state. But behind the military accolades lies a disturbing chapter involving enforced disappearances, a practice that human rights groups have long claimed was used to suppress dissent and eliminate perceived threats. The charges against Karanagoda are linked to the abduction and disappearance of 11 young men, most of them Tamil, between 2008 and 2009. These individuals were allegedly abducted by a naval intelligence unit operating under the command of senior officers, including Karanagoda. The victims' families claim their sons were detained without charge and never seen again. Some were reportedly held for ransom before disappearing entirely. Though several members of the Navy were previously implicated in the case, Karanagoda had managed to avoid direct accountability for over a decade, thanks in part to political backing and legal loopholes. Human rights activists have welcomed the arrest, describing it as a critical test case for Sri Lanka's judicial system and a potential step toward justice for wartime atrocities. Organizations like Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch have consistently criticized Sri Lanka for its failure to investigate or prosecute serious human rights violations committed by both sides during the war. The fact that a high-ranking official like Karanagoda is now facing legal consequences could indicate a shift in political will, or at least a response to international pressure. However, many remain skeptical. Although Karanagoda was arrested, he was quickly granted bail, and critics fear the case could be quietly stalled or dismissed altogether. Karanagoda's arrest also has broader implications for Sri Lanka's military establishment. The armed forces continue to wield substantial influence in the country's politics and governance even years after the war ended. Several senior officers from the war era have since taken up key posts in government and diplomatic missions. This case raises the possibility of further investigations into other military figures and may embolden victims' families to come forward with new evidence and demands for justice. As per Amnesty International, estimates that between 60,000 and 100,000 people were forcibly disappeared in Sri Lanka from the late 1980s through the end of the Civil War in 2009. Sri Lanka's own Office on Missing Persons, established in 2017, has received around 14,965 civilian reports of missing persons dating from 1981 onwards. The vast difference reflecting underreporting and limited verification capabilities. The arrest of Admiral Vasantha Karanagoda is more than just a legal case. It's a symbol of the tension between justice and power in post-war Sri Lanka. While his arrest gives hope to victims' families, the journey toward accountability is far from over. Whether this case leads to genuine justice or becomes another forgotten file will reveal much about Sri Lanka's commitment to truth, reconciliation, and the rule of law.